Hello everybody, what's going on? Emo Tempest here, and we are back with episode 2 of the Opus 23 spoilers for Hidden Hope. This set's getting more interesting, honestly, by every week. We've had 2 card of the weeks, and we have had a couple of new spoilers come through, and actually I have one new one for you today. So I guess stick around till the end for that. But let's get started. We have a couple to go through, so let's start with these. We have Jorni, Luso, and Asura, however you guys want to say it. Jorni is a backup princess. Choose a forward of cost 3 or less. Until the end of the turn, he gains 1,000 power. And if this forward is dealt damage by your opponent's ability, the damage becomes 0. That's not a bad effect, honestly. It is limited to, forward of cost 3 or less. Obviously the downsides are that if things like Charlotte or are in or out, it will get redirected if possible, which is not good, right? We don't want that for them, but for us, it's good. This is also another princess target and an FFL backup that I forget what the other Jorni does. I want to say she's a searcher, but either way, this isn't bad. It's usable. Will it see play is a different story. Luso, 5 cost backup. When Luso enters the field, choose a character of cost 2 or less in your break zone. Play it onto the field. Put Luso into the break zone. Choose a monster. Break it. Wind is getting this. Is going to continue to keep getting this break monsters thing, which is nice, I guess. But this Luso unfortunately suffers from big name clash. I don't think we're going to play this over any of the other ones. I know. There's a world, I think, where we can search this backup. We can get a Luso to our hand, but even then, it's not worth it. I think it is a character of 2 costs, so it could go from backup to backup and quickly generate, quickly color fix you, sort of. So it has some potential, but I worry that, it's almost as if it's going to try to compete with what we have for Fat Chocobo right now. Like, we pay 5 to search a 2 and then play it next turn, right? As opposed to pitch 3 and play 2, which is okay, I guess. It really just depends how you look at it. Azura, 1-drop summon. Activate all the forwards you control. Until the end of the turn, all the forwards you control gain. This forward cannot be returned to its owner's hand by your opponent's summons or abilities, and the power of this forward's cannot be decreased by your opponent's summons or abilities. An interesting card. We have something like this in Earth. With it can't be dulled, and it can't be frozen, and then they gain brave and all this other stuff. This is obviously a different set of effects, but it's very common. That Earth one never saw play, but I wonder if bouncing and cannot be decreased. Can have its power reduced or whatever, are more important for us to want to play this over the Azura that we currently, hate to love, because it's really good. So this one's full art too, so maybe more reason to play it. Next we have the Scions. We have, I think Scions are in a weird spot, right? They've been really playable for a while. They're like a fan favorite, and they also lack a certain consistency in the meta, right? Like, they've always made their impact, but then they're quickly overshadowed, and so this set's going to bring some new stuff, along with we have a couple people in our locals who are trying to make the Exodia deck work, and so I wonder if this might be why we're getting these, to help push that. But so we have a new Alice, a Tataru, and Alphanot. When Alice enters the field, choose a character without the, copies, multiples in your break zone, and you may search for a character with the same name and add it to your hand. I like that very much. The Tataru is a Scion of the 7th Dawn, which is interesting. Obviously, there's some lore there, but I've never played it. I never made it that far. Draw 1 card. You can only use this ability if you control 4 more drop Scions of the 7th Dawn during your turn, and only once per turn. That's pretty cracked. Getting to 4 Scions is relatively easy now, and considering that it doesn't specify forwards, this counts as 1. it seems pretty. I mean, right here there's 3 on board already, so I can, and they're all backups. So this seems very easy. And this is going to definitely help something like that Exodia deck where it just wants to, or that win condition deck, however you want to look at it. It's just going to quickly start speeding things up. In water and I believe in lightning, we can definitely reactivate this a couple times. But it's not out of this world to pair it with wind to try to get a lot of value out of this. I know it's only once per turn, but still, like, things to worry about. Alpha Nod. Put Alpha Nod into the break zone. Choose a card named Alice. If it costs 4 less in your break zone, play it onto the field dull. You can only use this ability during your turn. So it's interesting, right? Because before I believe it was Alice that brought in Alpha Nod. Now Alpha Nod's bringing in Alice in backup form. So obviously they just want you to continue to keep getting the names out or the jobs out. And so yeah, that's it. These are definitely gonna fit in different homes. I think the Alice is probably the one that we'll see play outside of a Scion deck. Just being able to search another character. I know off the top of your head, we're probably all thought the Y'shtola, just get the S right away. But I'm sure there's gonna be tons of other, characters that we can search for and get another copy of it. If you need to get a Chaos out, your Chaos died, but you have an Arc floating in your hand, this will work. Warrior of Light, it's just, yeah, the possibilities are actually very good, and it's on curve, so we don't really feel too bad about it. Next is the limit break cards. We've seen a couple already. I think we're missing. We haven't seen any fire limit break cards, which I'm worried about still. Mont was a big deal for me in the last set, so. We have Edge. It's a lightning legendary. Limit Break 3, he's a ninja. When Edge enters the field until the end of the turn, all forwards of Lightning, Job Ninja, and card name Ninja you control gain. When this forward attacks, choose a forward your opponent controls, deal it 7,000 damage. That's pretty interesting. There's a backup. I want to say it's Blacksmith, or it's a fire backup that does something similar for all your fire forwards, which is interesting. But this is actually for all your lightning jobs and card name ninjas, which is very strong. Things to take note: this isn't a limit break 3 card, so you won't be able to cast this probably more than once a game, depending on how you play. It is a ninja, which means no, we can't take advantage of the other edge. But I wish we could abuse this somehow, some other way, but. All in all, I think it's a very solid card. I think it will see play. Lightning kind of lacked a little bit last set in terms of big plays for limit breaks. Obviously, the Cloud was a shining star in the meta, right? Keeping a lot of powerful cards in check. But this is going to give Lightning the edge to push like some of the other colors do, right? Like it has the same potential. Close potential to something like a Mont or a Titus, right? I don't think this is better than those, but it's definitely very strong and it's very up there. Beatrix, limit break, Knight. When Beatrix attacks, choose a forward. If you control 3 or more job Knight forwards, break it. I think it's interesting that we're gonna already getting tribal like limit break stuff right away. I wasn't expecting this. When she attacks, choose a forward if you control 3 or more job Knights, right? So she counts as 1. You need 2 more. That's very easy. A Corilla into anything will just set us up, right? Obviously, the order would matter because she does have to attack, but it's something to worry about. And it is the limit break 1, so I don't know. It's a lot of ways to play Beatrix, or a lot of ways to get that extra Knight for both Ramza or Laswell, really, which is the all-star. Just being able to crack this or bring this out and then trigger a Laswell when you don't want to play anything else seems very strong. And Noctis, limit break 6. Well, he's a limit break 2, but he's a 6 cost. When Noctis enters the field, choose a forward in your break zone, add it to your hand. Very simple effect, but also very important, right? I think the fact that we can have an expensive Kusith at any point is very good. That being said, it is costly, right? It's gonna take a lot, but I think we're gonna play this. I think this is 100% gonna see play. This is gonna be a one of. You just never know, right? When you're gonna be able to need to recruit or something, and it's a body too, right? So it's not really bad. I obviously wouldn't play a 15 deck around it, right? Because you don't want that name clash, and I think that's why he was put in this position, sort of. So, I mean, yeah. Tell me your thoughts, guys. How much more did this Noctis need? I think we have a few more here: Brionac, Quina, and Soul Cage. So Brionac, remove 2 Earth cards in your break zone from the game. Until the end of the turn, Brionac gains 2,000 power and Brave. You can only use this ability during your main phase. And then for a Crystal tap, choose a forward, deal at 9,000. Kind of a little subpar card. It is a common, so I can kind of get that. Just kind of normal effects, nothing too extravagant. I like the idea of like being able to respond to remove our own cards. It kind of just answers, Irvin and things like that. It kind of helps them get big. You don't actually let your opponent control your break zone in this case. I love effects like that. There's not many. This is Galif levels, not Galif level stuff, but it's pretty decent. I don't think it's strong enough to make any major changes in the meta, but it's probably a good sealed card. Quina, finally a decent blue mage. When a monster enters either player's field, draw a card. This effect will only trigger once per turn. And then choose a forward. Until the end of the turn, it loses 3,000 power for each monster either player controls. That's pretty good. So up until now, Quina has had a few iterations all dealing with monsters, right? If you have a monster, it gets plus 1,000 or something. When it enters, get 1 back to your hand. I think there was one. And just really subpar effects for sub-stat lines, and nothing really too out of this world. This one has jumped significantly in the right direction for what Quina has always wanted to do. I think the last time I tried a Quina was the original one that came in the starter deck. I think I want to say it was part of the starter deck, not a starter deck specific card to say like the ID wasn't S, but yeah, ever since then I just didn't bother. It's a good card. This card is gonna change a lot of things. Monsters is always one of those that just, as we've seen this season, it just keeps catching people off guard, and it's nothing to shy away from. I think there needs to be more mainstream monster hate. I only know Earth players occasionally will run the Neo X Death, but that is also expensive in its own regard. It's devastating, but it's expensive. And Soul Cage. If you control 2 or more monsters, Soul Cage also becomes a forward with 9,000 power. When Soul Cage is put from the field into the break zone, you may remove Soul Cage from the game. When you do so, choose a monster in your break zone and add it to your hand. A lot of good things to say about this. The two or more monsters thing is very easily done. So, and that seems to be the method for the monsters this set. You need to have 2 or more for them to become a forward. And on death effect or whatever, when it leaves the field, when it's put from the field to the break zone to be exact, you can do this effect. It's nice. It is 2 autos, but being able to get some other value back is very good. And so 2 for 9 is just absurd. Realm has has leveled up again, so I can see why that card is going up in value. To do turn 2 this into Realm, bring 2 cards out, potentially forwards. Realm by herself can become an aggro deck now, right? On turn 2 or on your turn 3, you'd be swinging 3 forwards. It's not rocket science, but that's aggressive. And if you need more information, I guess it could be as little as Piranha and then this guy, right? Like it's not rocket science. And the fact that the monsters from our previous set can't be interacted with on their turns and only our turns means these guys are a little more safe, if that makes sense. And so yeah, it's weird. But overall, very good card. Quina and Soul Cage, I expect to get a lot of play. And now we have some of the nice full arts. I'm sorry for some of the crappy editing here. I see I've cut a lot of edges on these. We have a new queen. Remove 3 cards in the break zone from the game. Choose a job class cadet forward. Until the end of the turn, it gains 2,000 power. And if this forward is still damaged by your opponent's abilities, that damage becomes 0. It's not bad, I guess. I mean, it's okay. It's not too much to say. I'm not a big typo fan. We had a little bit of fun with it last season. And yeah, that's as far as that goes. I don't know if this needs or wants to replace the other queen. If it was just the next damage dealt or something might have been better, but it's specific abilities, right? So I would have liked something like, you know, the next damage dealt to it becomes 0, right? That would have forced more interaction, more playability, right? Because it's, you know, they could block forwards essentially, right? Or it could, you know, make my opponent expend more resources, but it's not. It's the next ability damage, which is also a trap in its own, but it also makes it specific, right? And so you can play around this 10 times easier than you could something like the next damage it receives is 0. Caius. This guy was the card of the week too. When Caius enters the field, you may search for 1 card named Bahamut and add it to your hand. During this turn, the cost required to cast your next card named Bahamut is reduced by 5. Yeah, that's pretty good. And when Caius is put from the field into the break zone, you may discard 3 cards. When you do so, play Caius from the break zone onto the field. Okay, so off the bat, it's a 5/9 with a big effect. It seems like a really good Montleonis target. You may search for Kareem Bahamut, add it to your hand, and then you can cast it for 5 less. So we do have a lot of playable Bahamuts, a lot of Bahamuts that are decent, and a lot of them that are just okay because they're 5 cost. Caius says, I don't care, I'm going to play this guy anyway. It is a very solid card. Now, again, I don't know how much I want to build around this though, because I'm gonna have to start adding Bahamuts. I believe it's Fang that also benefits from Bahamut, so there could be some synergy in a deck around that. The problem is his second effect, right? You have to anticipate. You know, when a deck like this loses to both Amont and Mist all at once, it makes me really hesitant to want to play this, right? Or at least the second effect. It could go either way, and so if your opponent has either one of those cards, then it's kind of GG. You kind of you've kind of spent a bunch of resources on a play that, you know, could have just waited maybe to play another one, right? That's all. I don't know. He seems cool. The art is very nice. I like it. I don't know anything about 13 or 13.2, but or the last one, 13.3. But he's okay. I wonder how much of it will play. And then new Sarah. The forwards your opponent controls lose 2,000 power. If you control 3 or more category 13 forwards, the forwards your opponent controls lose 5,000 power instead. I love this. And then Dispel. For an extra copy of Sarah, during this turn, the power of forwards you control cannot be increased. Sorry, let me read that right. During this turn, the power of forwards opponent controls cannot be increased by summons or abilities. That's pretty wild. I like that. So this is also another legendary. This Sarah is quite good. I think we haven't had too much effects where they're constant field abilities, which are just lowering the power of everything on the field. I know there was a Vayne a while back, and then, you know, Multi-Gemini said you couldn't increase technically, and so this is quite an interesting effect. Between the hope that we saw that early on in the beginning of the card of the weeks, leads me to believe that 13 is going to have a lot more tools this set to play with. And this one's just trouble for anybody, right? Like at 3 forwards, like all the knights that come in just die. Rydia just dies. I mean, the list goes on for Barch just dies, things like that. The interesting part is too is I don't think I know we talked about this, but I can't remember. There's no response window, right? Because forwards don't trigger stacks unless they have ETBs. So I think most cards will just come in and die But there's definitely gonna need to be some more. Like I'll probably elaborate on that one later, more in a Teach Me Mogster. But yeah, this one's good. I like this. Now a 4/8 concerns me obviously, but this effect is a big deal. It should be fun to see how these get used in. Obviously, I like a lot of these read good on paper, but realistically, we have to look at what the meta is like now and what is going to improve what we have and what will rewrite it, right? I don't know if the Hope has the potential to rewrite the meta at the moment, which means it'll be another top contender in the the deck triangle, if you will, right? Where right now we have Knights, Warriors of Light, Wool 7, and whatever the other one is, and Chark, and so you have those 4 decks are kind of just running around over and over again, and then like you have to see where any of these cards play into those decks, as opposed and how they overpower those decks, right? Or is Chark just that good anyway? Probably my favorite spoilers from this set so far is the Palom and Porum. I mentioned this on the RVA the other day. But I really hope this is the Nationals playmat. I would think it's a wasted opportunity if it wasn't. Also, it's just the best art I've seen from this game in a while. And, I know that might not be the same for everybody, but definitely for me. That being said, let's get onto these effects. They're both Apprentice Magician, 2/2, Fire, Water, those things don't change. If you control a card named Porum, the cost required to cast Palom is reduced by 2. The forwards with 2 or more EXP counters on them you control gain 2,000 power. And then when Palom enters the field, choose a forward, place 2 XP counters on it. So he buffs something by 2. As long as it has counters, he can be free. It's kind of a little bit... I'll dissect them in a sec, actually. So, and now Porum. If you control a card named Palom, card is reduced by 2. The forwards with 2 or more XP counters on them you control gain. If this forward is still damaged, reduce the damage by 2,000 instead. Yeah. Okay, and when Porum enters the field, choose a forward, place 2 EXP counters on it. So, what is this? How to take advantage of these guys, right? So obviously you need to have one out before the other before you get maximum value, right? So play one, the other one's free. They can give the buffs to themselves or they can buff something altogether. Unfortunately, after that though, keeping them on the board is the problem, right? Because their field effects, whatever has those counters, will have the buff so long as they're both on the board, right? And so being able to just blow these guys up on their own is a problem, right? It doesn't really excite me. Now, we do have both Palom and Porum backups, I believe. So as long as one of them's out, you can play the other ones for free and then just have them continue to do this, right? Which is nice. So I don't, as much as I think I'd like both of them in the same deck, I think they would be better off respectively in other decks where you can use their opposite backups, right? And then you have to figure out what's more important to you, right? The damage reduction or the 2k power. And that's it. And then it also goes with if that forward continues to live, like what else can you do to it, right? Because it's not two or more XP counter. It's not 1,000 or whatever per counter, right? It's not like the L's that we had before, right? With every counter, their power went up. No, it's if a forward controls 2 or more, they just get 2,000, right? So a single instance is all that they get. And so they can never get higher than that, or these abilities they don't scale. They don't get better as the more times you play them. So they're okay. The cards are fantastic. The art is amazing. I like them, but like I said, they're gonna find separate homes. Poor kids. And then I think the moment you've all been waiting for, if you guys have been with me this still, or you fast forwarded it, we have Gladiolus. If you control 2 or more category 15 characters, Gladiolus gains 1,000 power and Brave. And Dawnhammer for S and a copy of Gladiolus and an Earth. Choose a forward, deal damage equal to Gladiolus' power. I got a common this time, you guys. Can't get too excited, but More 15 support is always nice. I don't think, unfortunately, this guy outshines the previous two. The one from the starter deck and the last one we got all get cost reduction when he's out, when Noctis is out. And I think this one just kind of like is a weaker version of the starter deck one, where, you know, he gets 1000 Brave and then he can shoot his power. The S is cheaper, I think, but it also doesn't hit everybody, so it's not too exciting, but it is cool. The retainers are always a fan favorite too, followed, you know, somewhere in that top 5 category for most new players. You know, it's obviously 7 and 14 fight over the top spot every time, but then we have 6 and then everything else. But yeah, this is my spoiler, guys. Let me know what you think about it. Let me see if you want to take a shot at it. But yeah, that's gonna do it for us here, and I'll see you next time. We are about still a month away from this set, so a lot more can happen, guys. I can't wait to see what everyone comes up with for Nationals. Have a good one.